Hey everyone, welcome to the moon forecast for the full moon we have coming up in Capricorn. I'm Kendall with the Bohemian Tarot Girl.
And I'm Amy with Wild Reawakening, and we are here for the Capricorn full moon part two. If you've been following us, you will know that we already had one Capricorn full moon at the beginning of Cancer season, and now we are rounding this out with a second Capricorn full moon at 29 degrees of Cancer and Capricorn, which is at the very end of its cycle. And that's happening July 21st at 3:16 a.m. Pacific time. So go ahead and change that for wherever you are in the world and take a look at where 29 degrees of Capricorn is in your chart, because that will give you some ideas as to where to look to see how this moon is particularly going to impact you.
Yeah, and this like 29 degrees, sorry, I'm like preoccupied with my hair right now. This 29 degrees is really that point in, the zodiac wheel where it is our endpoint, right? There is the process of learning the lessons, and this is really that breaking point that we have. So it's interesting that this cycle has been really called out to us during this time because we've had these two Capricorn moons, and this is the final one. This is the one that's at that 29th degree, and it's really telling us that it's a do or die kind of situation with learning our lessons. We're ready to move on. We're ready to kind of break out and shift into a different paradigm in our life. So I just
Yeah.
thought that was really interesting. It feels like that is the huge piece, is that I feel like there's going to be a lot of energy that is going to shake people up if they've really been resisting the change. So,
Yeah. When I was looking into this moon, it was kind of like this whole theme around ending of cycles, but there's also such a sense of this being a really revealing and karmic full moon. There's there's a definite cycle that's ending, and you may have noticed something that has just shifted for you throughout Cancer season, which began around June 20th. I may have that date wrong, but when we started this, and so it's like this culmination of this beginning of this pattern of things kind of moving in a certain direction. And then we had that Cancer new moon, which was all about leaning into our intuition and things coming to light and really getting a sense of our emotional landscape that is going
yep.
on. And now we're back into this Capricorn energy and this closing out of this cycle. And Capricorn is such a physical energy, it's so deeply rooted in our reality and the rules and the constructs and how things are built and are meant to have stability and a sense of management and a
Mhm.
direction. Like there's no, I don't know, Capricorn energy always feels so rigid and black and white to me. Like there is a yes and there is a no, and there's really no gray in between. And there's a right way and there's a wrong way.
Yep.
And you better do it right. So so it's really this interesting energy that's coming in. And of course, it's never just about the moon. The moon is a 3-day energy, and so it travels pretty quickly, but it does come in cycles. And so we look at the moon energy as kind of being the starting and ending of a longer cycle that is transpiring. So we with this one, we have a cycle within a cycle, I feel like.
Yes.
And in some ways, I feel like I'm talking in a riddle about that, but it's really like we had this. You don't have this with most moons, because typically we have a new moon in a sign, and then we have a full moon, which is opposing the sun sign that it's in. Um, and so it's really rare and happens about once a year that we have this double full moon in the same sign that is kind of like creating these bookends of this energy. So it's really important to kind of look at what is completing and what is ending. And especially at that 29-degree point that you mentioned, like what has been transpiring that is coming to an actual complete end, and where are we resisting the ending, or what are we not wanting to see about what is ending, or where are we having trouble moving forward from here. So there's some big significant themes going
Yeah,
on right
and I definitely think it's more significant to me because of it being Capricorn and the fact that, we're heading into this, with Pluto, it's going to come back and it's going to have its last time where it's sitting in Capricorn before it fully goes into Aquarius and kind of stays there. And so to me, there's really like this emphasis, this last, like, here it is, your last piece, because there's only going to be this one other little wrap up as we completely transition. And you're going to have to get your shit together to make sure that
now.
it's all good, or you're going to be really hurting in the fall for this last kind of cleanup of energy. And so I feel like it's a huge shift in our collective. And there's some other energy that's coming into play with those other transits that kind of indicate that to me. Did you feel like the Capricorn for you kind of like red flagged you as like like, I know this happens and we do have that, you know, double full moon about every year, but this one for me, I don't know, it just kind of like red flagged it to pay attention to it extra as far as the cycle.
Yeah. And we talked about it in the last moon video too. Like you pay attention to the energies that are coming in and then you're more prepared for what is actually coming in. And even with having the information of what was going to transpire with that Cancer new moon and especially like the Chiron element that was happening, like bringing up the old moons and bringing up um even with having all of the knowledge of what kind of emotional landscape that was going to be because of that type of moon and those types of energies, like it really kind of knocked me on my ass for a few days.
No.
And it's all, like sometimes I think that you can anticipate or even have knowledge of what's coming, but then when you're in the thick of it, that's when you really have to like rely on your inner landscape and your senses and your awareness around things and learn to kind of let go and go with the flow.
Yep.
Um, because I just had to keep telling myself, like, it's not going to last forever. And at the time, it was like, this really sucks. What is happening? So
Oh no.
I'm totally going to, like, but you're right about that. Pluto being in retrograde and Pluto being newly in Aquarius. And there's been a lot of talk about Pluto lately because it is a long transit. It is an outer lying planet. It takes, 14 to 20 years to go through a sign. And so it's kind of the generational planet. And it has been in Capricorn for 14 plus years.
Yep.
Um, and it has newly entered Aquarius. And so it's kind of testing out this new energy. And Pluto is about transformation and kind of the unexpected and the unknown and the forward progression of things. And Capricorn energy and Aquarius energy is very, very different. Like, I don't know if there could be almost two signs that are so weird because Capricorn is all about tradition and right and wrong and family values. And, it's like, I always say this, it's like the strict dad energy of the zodiac.
Yep.
And then like you better work hard and you better do this right and you better follow the rules and this is the way that we do things. That's the kind of energy that Pluto brings in, or not Pluto, but Capricorn. And now we have Aquarius, and Aquarius is like from another planet. Like
Hmm.
rules, what are rules? There are no rules.
Hmm.
Like um forward thinking, all about the collective and the progress of the collective and how it interacts with its environment and the benefit of everyone overall. And it's a very communal type energy, but also very forward thinking. And so we have one that wants to stay in the past, and then we have the other that is all about where are we going in the future. And so you have these energies that are kind of like really mixed up right now because we keep stepping our toe into
Yes.
Aquarius and then retrograding back into Capricorn. Um, and you'll probably sense in the collective, there is kind of this tug of war happening between those who are looking forward with like this visionary aspect of what humanity could be. And then there's also those who are looking at getting back to the good old days and the traditions and values that we're used to. And so it's you'll see this playing out. I mean, I don't want to get political, but it's very much part of the political landscape right now.
It
And I'm
is.
not going to say if there's like a right or a wrong.
Yeah,
Um,
100%.
there's just a
You can see it.
yeah,
It's
a
there for you to see.
polarity that's
Yeah,
happening that it is really hard to navigate and choose. And I think that's a big part of this moon as we talk about it is choosing and recognizing what is working for you and then recognizing what is not working anymore and what needs to be transitioned. And having the moon at this degree point in this sign is really closing out anything that is no longer beneficial or serving towards you as you move forward and having to come to grips of letting it go and seeing where the resistance is to closing that out. So,
yep. And well, that was kind of like the notes that I jotted down for the moon conjunct Pluto is really your ability to see the patterns. And so you're going to see the patterns, you're going to see how they are unfolding. So you're making that kind of intuitive move to where you need to be. And it's paired with that Pluto going retrograde at 0 degrees of Aquarius. And then we know that it's going to kind of like flip back into Capricorn. When was that? Like September? It's like the end of September through November kind of thing. And it's going to go back into that Capricorn energy. And it's going to really wrap up some of that unfinished collective, shift energy that we're going to be really feeling. And so I think there's going to be some, volatile feelings out there around this. And it's really because people are not going to see what they need to see. And they're going to kind of just, stand in position, and it's really asking us to really shake out and kind of like feel into these different new changing patterns that we need to create in our world. So it's going to be some interesting energy, I think, collectively with Pluto. I
and
mean,
we
there's like our self energy, but then there's also how it's playing out in everybody around us in the world. So yeah.
yeah, and we've been saying this for a long time is that there is a lot happening outside in the external world environment. And it's easy to get caught up in all of that and the drama of everything that's happening. But if we come back to ourselves and we kind of maintain our own sense of peace and we maintain our own environment and do what we can in our own area, like that's really what's going to be the most impactful. And if the more people who do that, who just make their immediate surroundings like a better place to be, that creates a vibration across the whole world that is going to be better. So kind of like having this outward view of all of this stuff that you can't control and really focusing on that, you're really kind of doing a disservice to the impact that you can have because that's too broad of a reach.
Yeah.
Like me.
Oh, I definitely agree. I feel like if you insert yourself too much into the energy and it's making you go like this, then you're going to create like a negative kind of energy ripple, right? Whereas you'd be better off just stepping back and seeing it for what it really is. Because that's really what the energy wants you to do. It wants you to see it for what it is. Both sides, like all the sides. Look at it, understand it, you know, have empathy for people in the situation, but it's all about you seeing it versus you participating necessarily in it. So, and I feel
And
like
also have some kind of awareness that everyone kind of takes everything in through their own lens of understanding. And you may not agree with how someone perceives the information or what they attach themselves to, but they have a reason behind it. And it's typically not malicious. Uh,
Mhm.
so I know, especially with the political atmosphere that's happening, and I don't want to get too much into politics, but um, there is a divisiveness that's going on, and there's a lot of that happening, and it's creating a bigger problem when we attach ourselves to a certain side or way of being, and it removes us from the humanity that exists between all people. Because really, when it comes down to it, we're not that different from anybody else. We have a lot more in common than we think. And creating this polarity that is happening between the two sides is really um, just creating an atmosphere that is not benefiting anybody except for those who want to create disharmony and division. So
Yes.
just keep that in mind. Um,
I'm with you on that.
and sometimes it's just easier not to discuss those kinds of things with people,
Mhm.
um, especially if you know that they are on have different viewpoints. You're never going to change someone's mind.
Mm-mm.
Doesn't matter because they're perceiving their things through their own
Lens.
understanding and their own lens and their own way of being. So just look at them
Exactly.
as being human, trying to do their best.
Exactly. What else we got going on?
We do have Pisces in Neptune, and that is retrograde also, and it's in 29-degree point as well. This number is coming up a lot during this moon,
Mm.
and it's sextiling the moon. So Neptune being the planet associated with intuition and inspiration and spirituality and stuff. It's really giving an opportunity for us to lean into our intuition and our spirituality during this time. There could be like an up leveling. You may be gaining more access um, to information that or learning something new in regards to your spirituality or new developments around that. Um, so just that could be like maybe a saving grace during this time is that the information, if you really tap into your intuition and rely on it, that can probably be one of the better things you can do is utilize your own knowing of things and a higher level perspective to navigate whatever is happening in the outside world right now.
Yeah. I definitely think of, like when we look at this cycle and we see this energy of like the recognizing some of these patterns that we need to change, that we first saw brought in with, I mean, it's been brought in prior to this, obviously. But like it was emphasized with the first Capricorn full moon, and then we had, this really focus in on emotions, and it's really these big lessons that are coming here. It's offering this opportunity to really have a big shift in our direction and really kind of grant us that ability to make that shift. And it's kind of like, like you don't want to admit you did something, and you resist and you're like, I don't want to apologize, I don't want to say I was wrong. And then all of a sudden you kind of have like this epiphany where you're like, what's the big deal, right? I can
Mhm.
say, I can say I'm sorry, or I can say, you know, I changed my mind, or you see some new doors opening, and it kind of grants you that information and that wisdom to go, oh, yeah, I can see that from that other side. And it allows you to create that shift in your life. So you're not kind of hung up in that past you and that past drama that has been holding you back from really making those changes. So that's why I really like this energy. I really thought that it just kind of paired with this like moon and these patterns really offered us kind of like a good doorway to take and really make a big leap in our in
Mhm.
our growth.
Yeah. That Neptune Neptune is really offering some supportiveness to this because it's also trine the sun, which means that they're both water signs. They are kind of, be with, Pisces and Cancer and Scorpio. That creates this triangle, hence the trine. So there is a sense of, Neptune also keeps things kind of, there's like an illusion to it. Sometimes you can see things through rose-colored glasses. You can do this, but with it being in trine to the moon, not only do you have that higher level perspective you were talking about, but it also there's a sense of this energy that is kind of bringing about um, kind of an awareness and taking off the rose colored glasses and removing whatever masks or disillusionment or illusionment, whatever that word is, around around things. And so you'll have a better, clearer understanding of what is going on. Yeah, there's what am I'm trying to, sorry.
Oh, you're good. I can see you like up there.
Coming in, yeah. There has been an energy lately, and I don't even know what planets are involved in this or even if it's a planetary energy, but there has been a lot, and it's come up in conversations lately around people portraying themselves as something other than what they are for personal benefit. And that can be in your work environment, that can be in your family, that can be in people who are coming into your life, as partners or allies. Um, and I think that when I say the masks are coming off, it's like the whatever they have been using as a method of disguising their true self in order to benefit is going to be removed. So just
Yes.
pay attention to the people in your life, how they're interacting with you, if they're saying things that are seem too good to be true, if they're making promises that they can't keep, if they're like, um, yeah, there's just an element of clarity and truthfulness that is being activated right now, but you have to be willing to see it and acknowledge it for what it is.
Yes,
I mean,
I
some
agree.
people prefer not to see those things until you have no choice.
This is very true. This is very true. So I definitely know a lot of people that just want to glaze over some stuff, and it comes back to haunt you if you don't kind of face issues in your life, if you don't face issues, especially in relationships. I feel like, which relationships to me is a big player in this energy anyway, that family structure. And so I think that is kind of a good reminder, like, don't overlook some patterns, some things that you've been kind of rose-colored glass, looking at people. Really see the truth behind who they are and, what they are, and maybe like some of their motives, right? And if they have pattern structures showing up, especially in relationships and how they're coming at and working with you,
Mhm.
just saying.
What's that quote? It's like, you can't expect people to show up the same way you do, or just something like, if you're a good-hearted person, you tend to think that everyone is going to have the same motivations and intentions
Mhm.
and show up the same way. Um, and so you kind of have this benefit of the doubt, like you give people a chance more than you should. It just there's something about this energy that is really going to highlight
Yeah. And
those
I
things.
and it's interesting you said that, but I feel like there are a lot of people, and I'm not. The problem is that we have a tendency to like bucket people, like good or bad. Like the way I show up is the best way to show up, right? Versus like how somebody else shows up. And I do think that part of this energy is taking that step back and really looking at somebody and going, okay, they think they're showing up in X amount of way, and now can they hear me and see me and know like where my value lies and my you know what I mean? Like we can't expect somebody to like, do and bring us exactly what we want, especially without communication around it, right? So we can't have these expectations of others when their lens on being a good person is totally different. And we might not even really be able to emotionally understand why they perceive how they do their interactions, right? Like it gets really deep, and I feel like you just have to really like stand back and not bucket people and be like you're good or bad, but just really see the behind the reasons why, and then hope that they're going to like come back and have a conversation with you and be open to receive, information, and you have to be open to receive too. So, because it goes two ways.
And luckily, Gemini, I mean, yeah, Venus has moved into Gemini, which is an energy of, communication and expressing ideas and thoughts, and really opening the lines of interaction in your relationships, and looking at things in a more kind of lighthearted sort of way, because Venus, everybody loves Venus. It's all about the good stuff in your life. So having it in a sign like Gemini, even though it gets a bad rap in the zodiac, like if you follow astrology pages that are like, oh,
Mhm.
look out for that person with the Venus in Gemini,
Uh-huh.
because it has the potential of being kind of a fickle energy, I guess. But it's really because it's so invested in the play, and also in the communication of ideas and emotions, and um, the deeper layers of things. So it's not really a flighty energy. It's more of a, oh, what's the word I want to say? It's an energy that likes to be mentally stimulated
Hmm.
in a relationship environment. So
Yes.
yeah, there can be the potential for really good conversations with the people in your life.
Yes. I completely agree. What are you feeling? So, on the flip side of that, though, we have the play with Chiron's energy at 23 degrees of Aries, and it's squaring the moon. And so we have this increase in tensions, though.
Yeah.
And so, and it's Aries. So it's like in here you have lovely Venus, working with the moon, trying to get people deep into communication. But then you also have these like days, and it's going to go retrograde. And so it's kind of like this increase of kind of that. mm, it's going to push you to heal some wounds, right? It's going to push you, and it's going to be a little more um, confronting in nature. And so I I would just be aware of that. That's what this energy tells me is you don't want to like give up your stance, right? You want to be heard and seen. That's part of the moon. But you
Mhm.
also don't want to like go off the deep end, right? And so you have to like kind of melt these energies together and use them in their best ways, and really have that open communication, show your love, make sure that you're doing it from that loving standpoint, but also just like not give up your kind of like your reasoning and your foothold and your ground that you're wanting to stand. And so make sure that you're heard and seen. I That is just like the big message for me during this time is make sure that you get whatever you need out, and just do it with kindness, and I think and empathy for
Oh,
others. So,
yeah. I think at this time, especially with this aspect that's going on, because it can be really emotional and it can bring up old wounds that are coming to the surface, it's, like you said, really important to communicate in a loving way, but also to have ownership of your, where you still have healing that needs to happen, and not kind of like spew out all of your hurt all over everybody.
yep.
But it is a good opportunity when those things come to the surface to really uh, communicate in a way that can create a healing atmosphere, and work through some of those unresolved things that are being showcased and highlighted through this moon right now. So Chiron's always tricky.
It
You've probably heard us talk about Chiron a lot, and if you haven't, like, Chiron is considered the wounded healer. So it's going to be that aspect in your chart, or that energy in your chart, that is your deepest wound. And so every time Chiron's activated, it's like a new layer or level of this wound comes up to be healed. And the
Mhm.
whole point of it is to heal it so that you can reach a point where you are now helping others heal similar. aspects or woundings that you've already processed and gone through and worked through and have the healing happen. But it's going to keep coming up until you fully resolve that. And so I always think of healing kind of being as everybody wants to go in for like that quick fix healing and let's make this better. But healing is one of those things that kind of happens in a spiral. And so, but it's spiraling up. So you go through and you work through something and you think that you've reached a completion, but really you've just reached another level of going up, until you reach the top, and you've leveled up completely. So, yeah, I feel like Chiron's been activated a lot lately, and
Yes.
at that last new moon, there was some elements of Chiron happening. And it's just an opportunity to get curious and to look deeper and figure out what else still has some work to do.
Hmm.
So,
Yep. Don't get too fiery over it.
no. And don't spew out your stuff all over everybody. We just had a huge clap of thunder over my house. This
Oh, really?
happened.
No, not again.
Hopefully this didn't knock the power out. Um,
What
yeah.
else? What else we have?
Oh gosh. Another aspect that's kind of a big deal for this time is we have Uranus, which is in Taurus at 26 degrees, another like endpoint endpoint degree, right?
Yep.
And it's trining this moon. And so there is a level of, because Uranus is all about kind of the unexpected and surprises and unconventionality, like this is an opportunity to have surprise occurrences and doors open that you may not have anticipated or realized were possible. um, so there could be something really unexpected happening during this moon that could push you forward into a different direction or give you insight into something you hadn't considered before. Um, so be ready for some possible shakeups in your trajectory or what you thought you were on the path of.
Yep.
So,
I do think there are big shifts and that this energy is really encouraging us to make those changes, which I think is good. It's good to play in and have that piece, being brought forward in order to make that transition. Um, yeah, I just think I don't know. It just seems like it's bringing in some extra energy, I think, to help kind of ground and facilitate some of these other, maybe like more angsty energies that might be at play. So,
mhm. Yeah, and we also have Mercury, which is in
yeah.
Leo, which is going to be going retrograde at the beginning of, of August.
And we're in
Uh,
shadow period right now, and I'm not happy about it.
yeah, Mercury, we always, we like to blame things on Mercury because it messes with transportation and communication and stuff. But I've noticed that this year the Mercury retrogrades have had an interesting thing in that they've really been able to kind of slow down the energy of things so that we can like process things a little bit better. But do just double check like that you have your systems backed up and that you have, a spare tire on your car, or take extra time to get where you're going to go, because there can be some, you know blips in the
Yes. Yes.
the usual flow of things.
Hmm.
But that Mercury is squaring Uranus, and because Mercury is going to be going retrograde, so it's meeting that square in Uranus and Taurus, and then as it moves forward, it's going to meet that again, and then as it goes retrograde, we're gonna cross over this energy a couple of times over the next month. Um, and that can really create um, a shift in, going back to Uranus being the surprise. So this is kind of with it, squaring Mercury, it can really change your directions, your plans, what you had thought you were going to be doing. So just be prepared that there could be some shakeups. Depending on how you process shakeups is really going to be how it affects you, because shakeups can be good
Hmm.
if we kind of surrender to whatever it is, or it can really like set us on a new path. It doesn't necessarily have to be something that hinders things. It's just how well do you navigate changing things up.
Mhm. Or just slight blocks, slight blocks. And
Yeah.
why are you being asked, you know, why are these blocks coming up? Because there's some reasoning behind it. So,
Yeah. Typically, if you feel like you keep hitting a brick wall, it's because you're meant to figure out how to go around the wall, not through the wall. So, so it feels like you're hitting a wall, like look for whatever inspiration is leading you and kind of surrender to the flow of it. And I feel like that's kind of a big theme of this moon is that we're so used to having this is the direction that I need to go and this is the way I'm supposed to do it and all of those rules that are coming up, but it being at that end degree point, we're now looking at okay, what can I leave behind so that I can move forward in a better direction?
yeah,
What hasn't been working for me? Where am I being resistant? And so it's really an opportunity to look at yourself and kind of maybe where you're even putting up self-imposed blocks and restrictions that don't really belong there anymore and time to clear them out.
get rid of them. I
Mhm.
like that. Anything else before we wrap this up? I feel like we covered it.
Feel like, yeah, if there is more, it all kind of ties into everything else.
Yeah.
Uh, so it's a pretty pivotal energy right now. Um, and it might get a little weird over the next couple of months. I'm not gonna lie. Like energy overall is a little bit weird. And so the more you can focus on making sure that you're following your path and listening to your intuition and doing what feels right for you, the better off it's going to be in the long run. Just kind of
I
try
agree.
and stay out of the outer turmoil.
Exactly. Stay away from that outer turmoil. Focus in on yourself as much as you can.
Mhm.
Uh, and really creating the life that you want and the self that you want to become. So, because this is a good time for some big shifts in your life. So make it happen.
Mhm.
All right, everyone. Have a grateful moon. We will see you next time for the new moon. Bye, everyone.